What's up, SC Nation? Ramsey here. So, I'm feeling a little bit under the weather and I'm really tired, so I'm just gonna record this video with minimal B-roll, and you're gonna see me looking at my notes because I do take notes every once in a while and I like to share them with you. So, last week I talked about fixing your situation. You're in a bad fit and you want to fix your situation. Now, if you want to watch that video, make sure to watch it. There's gonna be a link somewhere. And that had happened to me. I was in a bad situation for a while, and I wanted to talk about it and talk about how I solved it specifically, mainly about how I wrote my job description, and we'll talk about that. But the situation that I speak of is I went on paternity for 3 months, and that's something that our company here at Keysight actually provides. So I'm very thankful for that. While I was off, I think a little bit before I was off, my boss at the time had been promoted to a senior role with a different set of customers. And because I was on paternity, we had talked a couple of times, but it was very short, and I didn't understand what was the outcome of the conversations or him being promoted. So during that break, my boss got promoted. That meant I got moved to a different manager, and my role changed from hybrid sales engineer, covering mainly one large account, to a solution specialist handling a territory. And don't want you to think, I don't want you to be fooled by the term solution specialist. I still cover the same product lines, so I'm no more specialized in one than another. But the way it's working is now more account managers who already have a lot of other product lines are now handling my product lines, and I'm supporting them. So what does that mean for me? Well, basically it meant that I didn't know what my role was because it felt redundant. And not many people in the company that I work for have a similar role, so there was no one for me to talk to. That also led me to not knowing how I interact with the account managers that I will be supporting, and also the SEs that will be working with me, and finally, who leads customer interactions, who owns the customers, and that's a big conversation. Like, who owns the account, who's going to work with the customers, and I mentioned that I had some SEs that I work with, and the thought that always popped in my head is, if I'm an SE, why do I have other SEs that would support me? It doesn't make sense. It's just, I'm an SE. Let's just say it was a bad situation. There were a couple of mornings where I would just wake up, and I actually told this to my manager, like, hey man, I don't know where I'm going to be smacked in the face today by all these changes. And that's obviously after I came back to work. And I looked at my options, and one option was to either leave the company or change roles within the company. But my problem is, I hate leaving something unfinished. If there's a challenge, I feel like that's the worst time to leave. And believe me, that was a challenge. I wanted to make sure that I gave it my all before I said, you know what, this is not fixable. I'm going to move on. So the other option was to work on improving the situation. And I didn't do that alone. Like, I had to work with the manager who had just been promoted and shifted me over. But I had to do a lot of work with my manager, the new manager, as well as the account managers and SEs I'm working with. And I have to admit, I have a great manager today. He has my back. He really wanted to help me fix my situation. So there was a lot of give and take, a lot of conversations, and that helps a lot. You can't do it if you have a bad manager. It's very hard to fix your situation because you can't fix a bad manager. So here's what I did. I mentioned that on a LinkedIn post in the past, and if you don't follow me on LinkedIn, make sure you do so. You can follow me personally or follow WeDSE's, the company page. I wrote down my job description, and I wrote it by asking myself 4 questions. What do I enjoy? That's the first one. The second one was, what am I good at? And here's where a lot of people kind of get stuck because they don't know what they're good at. So if you don't know, you should ask your friends, colleagues, partners, whatever. Ask people what they think you're good at. And you will start seeing a pattern at some point. It's like, yeah, I'm good at that. I never thought I was good at talking to people. But so many people have told me throughout my career, ever since I started the podcast even, that I am great at asking questions. I'm like, all right, so that's a strength. I enjoy doing that as well. I honestly enjoy asking questions more than answering them, which is why you probably don't see me as a guest on a lot of different shows or anything like that. But I love asking questions, and it's what I'm good at. And be brutally honest with yourself, and ask your family and friends and colleagues to be brutally honest with you. And then the third question I asked myself was, what do I want my day to look like? And what am I not willing to do? For example, I didn't want to travel. I wasn't willing to travel at the time. I just had a new baby. I wasn't going to travel. That's one thing. So once you write down the answers to these questions, I then followed up with, what would my employer want me to do? Because it doesn't matter if I want to do all of something. If my employer wants me to do something completely different, then there is no, like, if you look at the Venn diagram, there is no intersection. You can't really work it out. And then I thought, like, how can I combine what my employer wants me to do or needs me to do with what I want to do? And through that, I was able to find an intersection. And there were several things that I didn't want to do. I mentioned traveling, or I didn't want to completely own the customer account, because as an SE, that's not generally something I wanted to do. There were a few others. And I used that as my guiding star to figure out where I want to go with my career within this company. And things got better. I mean, they didn't happen overnight. I still always woke up for a while having, like, what's going to happen today feeling. But after a few weeks and where nothing happened, I got better. I started thinking, like, all right, we're good now. And then a few weeks after that, I started enjoying my job again. And this was all recent. Like, my baby came in February 2021. So it's been a year. And after I found my fit, I found that, all right, maybe there are some things that I can do differently. I mean, I wrote down what I'm not willing to do, what I want my day to look like, and all these things. These are not set in stone. At this point, now that I'm feeling better, is there something else that I want? And now I own a customer account all on my own. My biggest customer is mine. It happened not because of I asked for it. It happened due to circumstance, and they may take it away, and I continue to support them, just not owning the account. But I'm okay with it. It's not. I'm not unhappy because I own the account, and I'm not happy if I don't own it. So I know my place, and I know I'm in a good place today, and I'm in a good place because I was able to basically write my job description. If my job description, the 4 questions that I asked, and what the company wants from me have nothing in common, then at that time I would have thought, all right, it's just time to move on. Whether internally or externally doesn't really matter at that point. But luckily enough, I got it. And that's one way, a big way, where I see people needing to do this. And so I've worked with people who are channel SEs, and they're looking at the job description, what they're supposed to do, and they also have no idea what they want to do. And when they ask themselves those questions, they find, all right, I don't want to do any of the things that they're asking me to do. What I would like to do fits more with an SE role, like a direct SE role. So they move internally to a direct SE role. They're not leaving the company. They're staying within. Or in some cases, like, hey, I want to be a pre-sales. I want to work in this technology. My company wants me to be post-sales and work on that other technology. There is no fit. Move on. So yeah, that's it for today. I'll see you next time. Peace.